Hey, maybe like me, you thought Purdue was going to lose a step when Zach Edey took off for the Grizzlies. Whoops, not so fast.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. It's the only daily national college hoop show out there. We're your hosts. This is the man, Andy Patton, and I am Isaac Shade. Folks, you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch this Monday morning. Maybe you're on your way to the work. Maybe you're taking a nice hot bath with a glass of a mimosa. How about on a Monday morning? Wow, congrats to you if that's your life. And you're just checking in with us. We love it. Thank you so much. And by the way, you can listen to every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with the big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Andy, we want to welcome in all the glorious everydayers joining us, and of course, all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. I don't screw that up very often, Andy, but there was
that's pretty good.
Honestly, the percentage is very low. So, folks, thank you so much for being with us. Here's where we're going on this Monday. It was a great weekend of games, most of which were on Friday. You might recall from our Friday show that there were 9 campus games between high majors. So much good stuff. But Saturday delivered like a truckload of overtime games. We had a father-son battle, not in a Bronny sort of way. We're talking 2 different teams here, actually. And then on Sunday, there was a couple mid-majors who knocked off high major opponents. We're going to get into all of that and more. Just a quick note about Sunday's games. We are recording this before Utah and Mississippi State, which is like tipping as we start recording, so we can actually keep up with that in real time. And then Cal at USC, this great ACC Big Ten matchup coming up later tonight, Andy. It's still weird to say, but there we are. So let's start right out of the gate with 2 Big Ten teams that both won, and I don't think we thought either of them had a prayer, quite frankly. Andy, are you with me that you didn't think Purdue had much to hand Alabama on Friday night, but I was dead wrong?
Yeah, I was not feeling great about Alabama. I still think I projected Alabama would win. I thought they would kind of quiet some of the hesitations we've had about this team with three-point shooting and some of the defensive woes, but it was a little on the fence about how they've been up to this point. And having said that, I was also not feeling great about where Purdue was at this early start in the season. They hadn't quite looked like they'd found their bearings, of course, without Zach Edey and then Daniel Jacobson being hurt. It just felt like they didn't have the front court kind of power to necessarily stick with Alabama. Alabama doesn't do a lot of their scoring in the front court, but obviously they're a team that shoots a lot of threes and gets a lot of rebounds. And I thought, okay, that's going to be a challenge for Purdue. And yet Purdue comes out, they pick up a really, really big time win here. 87-78 was the final score for them. And really the woes that we saw from Alabama continued to be a problem. This team shot 31% from 3 in this one, 29 3-point attempts, only made 9 of them. And I think this is going to correct itself for Alabama. I wouldn't be overly concerned. I don't think this result is a huge problem. I haven't fully finished my top 25 yet as we're recording this, but I had them 5th. Last week, yeah. I don't think they're going to move much. They might move down a little bit, but it's not going to be a dramatic shift for them. I think this is a team that's still going to be very good this year, but off to a slow start shooting the rock. Mark Sears 1 of 6 in this one. Jaron Stevenson has not made a 3-pointer yet on the season.
I think he scored in this game, Andy.
He didn't even score. Yeah, that's a problem for Alabama. Again, a problem that I think is going to get rectified, and they have some really promising performances from guys like Phelan and Darian Reed, who looked really good. So I think they're going to be fine, but big shout to Purdue for picking up a win here without their front court. They did a really good job of getting to the free throw line, even though they didn't do a very good job of finishing at the free throw line, 16 of 25. But Trey Kaufman-Renn was incredible. 26 points, 12 of 23 from the field. If he's going to perform like that, and you're going to continue to get near triple doubles from Braden Smith, which is what he did in this one, 17, 10, and 6, you're going to be in great shape. Matt Painter is a phenomenal coach, and they showed why this is still a team that's going to be at or near the top of the Big Ten with this big win here.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, I think the telling thing is that Alabama's 31% from 3 actually brought their season average up.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Not a
yeah,
good sign.
that's where Alabama is right now. 30.4% from three. That's 233rd in the nation, Andy. That is not what we expect from the Crimson Tide. And right now, it's their offense is still highly efficient, 5th in the nation. And so you can imagine only more so when they get cracking. You're spot on with TKR, man. It's crazy what he's doing. And you add in Fletcher Lawyer starting to really come along, 3 of 5 from 3 in this game, 17 points in totality. And, you see that discrepancy between the two teams. While Alabama was 9 of 29, 31%, Purdue also hit just 9 threes, but only needed 16 attempts to get there. It's 56.3%, Andy. And so therein lies kind of the answers to that. One of the things I've been looking for with Purdue, Mr. Patton, is this. You've got TKR, you've got Braden Smith, and you got Fletcher Lawyer. And I think that you're going to get scoring and production from those 3 guys. And who's number 4? Well, one of the candidates might just be freshman CJ Cox, Andy, because he had this barrage where he hit back-to-back threes. And that, frankly, that's what turned the game in the second half, was he went on that tear. And so, if I don't know if he can be that level of consistency, somebody to be that alongside of these guys who are going to get theirs game in and game out. But that was nice to get that off the bench from CJ Cox.
Yeah, I think he was like 220th in the 247 ranking, something like that. This is something that Matt Painter and Purdue are exceptionally good at, finding players who are not getting that kind of respect from the national recruiting services, guys who are really underappreciated, who come in and immediately contribute. What a great performance from CJ Cox in this game, a player who looks very much the part for Matt Painter's team, despite not getting those kind of accolades coming out of high school. But I think the other big game,
Andy, can I quickly just before we go on, just quickly, Alabama's schedule doesn't ease up at all. Listen to this: neutral against Illinois, neutral against Houston, neutral against Rutgers, neutral Notre Dame. That's in the NIL thing. At North Carolina, at home against Creighton. That's their next 6-7 games there, dude. So it's going to be and that's not even SEC play. So anyway, keep going. I just wanted to get that in real quick.
That is absolutely huge shout to Nate Oates for being able to put together that kind of competitive schedule. But
crazy.
Wanted to talk about Arizona going on the road to play Wisconsin. Again, another Big Ten team hosting a very high-quality top 10 opponent. And again, Purdue and Wisconsin both getting W's here. Wisconsin beats Arizona 103-88 was the final score. The damage done by John Tonje, 41 points for the Badgers in this one. More than half of them came at the free throw line, 21 of 22 from the line. He had the most points in a game against an AP top 10 team since 2016, when Malik Monk for Kentucky had 47 over North Carolina.
He's don't remember that at all, Andy. I don't think that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably have that one blacked out, right?
No, I actually remember it quite well because Luke May got payback in the Elite Eight. So
yes, very true, very true. He also becomes the only player in the last 30 years to have a 40-point game with 20 made free throws against a top 25 opponent. Just this was crazy. An insane game. Isaac, an insane basketball game, 63 total fouls called in this game, 87 free throw attempts between the two teams. Wisconsin shot 41 of 47 from the line. That's 87%. Arizona was 28 of 40, which is 70%. That's not that bad, but when you give up 13 made free throws to the other team, that's a really, really tough recipe for success. Tons of fouls early in the game for Arizona. They were in foul trouble the entire second half. Really a remarkable performance from Wisconsin. And I think that's arguably as big of a storyline. I think a lot of people will focus on Arizona losing to an unranked team and giving up 103 points. And certainly there's some very legitimate concern about Arizona on both ends of the floor coming out of this game, shooting 17% from three, not doing nearly enough defensively. But I'm in on Wisconsin. They looked great. They've looked good so far this season. This is their first really big test, but they're playing really well right now. And they're a team that I think could be sneaky good in the Big Ten, especially with some of the other teams near the top of that conference that haven't really impressed as much as we thought they would.
Yeah. And I've been trying to ascertain in my own mind, Andy, is this just Cole Center was bumping and Arizona wasn't ready for it? You know, I mean, because it was the first Friday of the season last year where Arizona went to Duke and won in Cameron, right? So it's and I know it's not all the same personnel and all that, but clearly this is a team that knows how to go on the road and do this in the Wildcats. And so it's so interesting. But like part of this is the Caleb Love experience that we all, I've started even calling it CLX, Andy. 2 for 13 in this game, 0 for 6. And there is a level at which you need, if you're Tommy Lloyd, you need Caleb Love to keep shooting, right? Like get himself out of those. But you just have to live with the fact that sometimes he will shoot you into games and sometimes he will shoot you out of games. And you just got to be okay with that and hope that when he's missing, he will be able to do other things and eventually find his shot. But and that's not the only problem for the Wildcats, Andy. You know, it's the defense needs to get up and going. I think some of that might be, you know, we're going to talk about Indiana later. That's where Umar Ballo is now, right? Like there's just some things where it's like, I think maybe they're still trying to kind of find their footing in that way. But as we mentioned defense, it's kind of funny because when we think Wisconsin, we think calling card defense. Well, right now at KenPom, they're 18th in offensive efficiency and 54th in defensive efficiency. I mean, some of that's what's going to happen when you put up 100 points on a top 10 opponent, right? But just interesting that's where Wisconsin's bread is buttered right now.
We had 9 Friday matchups between ranked teams, between high major opponents on the road. We projected that we thought the home teams, they maybe weren't going to do very good. I think I had 3 and 6. I think maybe you had 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's right.
The home teams went 6 and 3. Really nice performances by those teams at home. Early season road games, really nice test for those teams. Obviously, you have the advantage playing at home, and I think that's why some of these teams are hesitant to do that. But it was really fun to see these really rocking environments the way that we did, and to see the home teams get some significant victories here. We'll see again. We're not super concerned about Bama yet. A little bit more concerned about Arizona at this point. But those weren't the only 2 big-time Big Ten games of the weekend. And while Purdue and Wisconsin both won, the same cannot be said for the 3 other Big Ten games that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But first, our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate fan is not just a hobby, it is a way of life. And it takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime. We're going to talk about a lot of those later in the show. That is why 5 Hour Energy created Stand the Fans 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot, who are last to leave, we see you. And you know what else gives us college basketball fans fuel this week? Getting ready for Gonzaga at San Diego State Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern tip, and then Maui next week. We got a lot of late games coming up, and 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long, and that's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. All right, I have 3 more Big Ten games that we want to talk about. It's one of those that we didn't expect to be leading and talking about a bunch of Big Ten basketball games, but here we are, Purdue and Wisconsin picking up those major wins, but some teams that didn't do quite as well. 21st ranked Buckeyes of Ohio State on the road, taking on Texas A&M, the 23rd ranked Aggies. I know we were not as high on A&M as the AP voters. We did not have them in our top 25. And yet here they go, pick up a 14-point win at home against Ohio State. A&M was 32 of 40 from the free throw line in this one compared to just 16 of 22 from Ohio State. That's a pretty big discrepancy in the free throw attempts and free throw makes. It's potentially a little bit of home cooking there. That's part of what you get when you play road games early in the season. Wade Taylor, the 4th, 15 points for A&M, 7 of 7 from the free throw line. But mainly, Isaac, the issue that I'm kind of concerned about with Ohio State, it's only been a couple of games, but that sophomore front court that they brought in, Sean Stewart coming over from Duke and Aaron Bradshaw coming over from Kentucky, they haven't looked all that good yet this season. They both had good games against Youngstown State, but did not play well in Ohio State's first game against Texas. Neither of them played well here against A&M, combined for just 8 points in this one. I think this team could be very, very good and a real challenger in the Big Ten if those two guys kind of reach the potential. They're both the top 15, top 20 prospects in last year's recruiting class, but so far, we haven't quite seen that from the two of them.
No, we haven't. And Andy, I'm looking at Michi Johnson with that too, where, right now, Aaron Bradshaw is the 4th leading scorer. Michi Johnson's the 5th leading scorer, and Sean Stewart's the 7th leading scorer. All three, we haven't necessarily seen it as much or really at all with Aaron Bradshaw and Sean Stewart, but with Michi Johnson, also an SEC transfer, like we've seen him do it. We know he can, and that he does, and it went off when he played at South Carolina. And so, look, same kind of thing we've said about like Alabama, like not writing it off yet, but my eyebrows are raised a little bit with this, and so it'll get there. Obviously, as you said, going on the road and early season stuff is very, very difficult, and that 6-3 you just mentioned bore that out, but. Tough to go take this loss on the road, 14 points, better days ahead for Ohio State. I think more than anything, this just told me more about Texas A&M than what I believed in them.
Yeah. Marquette at Maryland is the other game here. For those of you who listened to Thursday or Friday or both episodes last week, I was kind of concerned about Marquette, their rebounding, how this would play out against a team in Maryland who has an incredible rebounding player in Derek Queen, and made a lot of projections that Marquette would not win this game. But
Andy, you need to apologize to Shaka Smart right now.
Well, I do. You don't, because you said, well, Marquette can win if Cam Jones goes off. And folks, that is exactly what happened. 28 points for Cam Jones, 10 of 18 from the field. Marquette picks up a nice road victory here, 78-74. This Marquette team looked good. They 31-30 was the rebounding. So yes, Maryland did out-rebound Marquette, but just by 1 point or one rebound. Really nice performances, not just from Cam Jones, but Stevie Mitchell and Royce Parham both delivered as well. Mitchell had 18, Parham had 10 in just 13 minutes off the bench. Shaka Smart's an incredible coach, able to get this team to go pick up a really nice win over a Maryland team that, I'm not super optimistic about Maryland, but I thought they showed some promise in this game. I think Derek Queen's obviously going to be a huge time player for them. He had 24 points in this one, 9 of 13 from the field. He missed 2 threes, so he's 9 of 11 on 2-point attempts in this one. Really nice game from him. So shout out to Marquette for picking up a big time win here.
Andy, and Maryland had so many opportunities in the final minute of this game. It kind of blows my mind. They're down 2, 30 seconds left. Jacoby Gillespie gets a steal, misses the layup. Cam Jones actually missed a couple free throws to open the lead up bigger, but then Deshaun Harris misses 2 free throws to try to tie the game. Then Stevie Mitchell makes the last 2 to kind of ice the game. But it's like, if Maryland can connect on some of those, we might be talking about another overtime game that happened this weekend.
Yep.
But so that's the thing, right? Like, you got to make those plays down the stretch, get to the line, hit your free throws, get to the rim, make these layups. And I know like in a small sample size like that, it's going to happen sometimes, but those small things are the difference in winning and losing, particularly at home, man. You just can't do that at home at the end of the game.
Indiana picks up a really nice win over South Carolina, our other Big Ten game we want to talk about here. It was the first big test for the Hoosiers this season. Coming into this game, they had the 344th ranked strength of schedule in all of college basketball. They played 2 cupcake opponents, so we kind of just weren't sure what Mike Woodson had. It's a team with a lot of new transfers: Kenan Carlisle, Miles Rice, Umar Ballo. We've seen Mackenzie Mgbako look like he was kind of in the midst of a sophomore breakout, but again, it was like, well, what is that going to look like against a better team? And they go out at home, pick up a 16-point win over a team that was a 6th seed last year in South Carolina. Mackenzie Mgbako looked fantastic, 17 points, 5 of 8 shooting in this one. Miles Rice finally had his kind of big game for the Hoosiers, 23 points for him. And the big storyline I saw, I think it was Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated, who said that there was a ton of NBA scouts at this game to watch Colin Murray Boyles. And I'm sure that's who they were there to watch, but they came away taking a lot more positive notes about him. Mackenzie Mgbako, who was very good. Boyles just had 2 points, 4 turnovers, 5 fouls in 19 minutes. Trust me when I say I do think Colin Murray Boyles is an NBA player and a first-round pick, and he's very talented. But a lot of scouts in this one, and they did not get to see him at his best. But nice shout-out for Indiana and Mgbako in particular, who looks every bit the player we thought he was going to be as a freshman. And he didn't quite get there then, but prospect development's not always linear, and he looks like an absolute dude so far this season.
Yeah, this guy's averaging 24.5 points, 8 boards to lead Indiana. And Andy, while look, Indiana's not shooting the world on fire from 3, they were good in this game. 141st in the nation with 35.3% from 3, which is, that passes our national champion metric we're always looking at, Andy. But right now, the Hoosiers in total field goal percentage, 5th in the nation.
Wow.
At 57.1%. And part of that is because they're 12th in the nation from 2, 65%. 8.9. So that kind of reminds me of like that TJD team hit like his senior year, where it was like they weren't hardly shooting any threes, but it didn't matter because they were so prolific and efficient from two. And if that can be them again, then Mike Woodson's team is going to be in shape. Same thing. Better days ahead for South Carolina. Another road loss. Fine, whatever. But really, really good stuff for Indiana. Who let's remind ourselves, we've kind of poked holes in Indiana's non-con schedule. All they have left is Battle for Atlantis, and then a bunch of cupcakes, all at home in Assembly Hall. And so, really, really going to need to perform well in the Battle for Atlantis. But that is a field that's got a few other teams with some championship aspirations, Andy. So I think that's where we're at. So glad for Indiana to salvage this segment for the Big Ten, where Ohio State and North Maryland could do so. All right, Andy, Daddy won the Pitino battle, and we had 7 different overtime games on Saturday. One team this weekend even played overtime on back-to-back days, Friday and Saturday. Crazy stuff. We'll get to all that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. I love this one-stop shopping. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I just mentioned Battle for Atlantis. Well, the odds are live, and Gonzaga leads the way right now at plus 135, followed by that Arizona team we just gave a hard time earlier at plus 180, and Indiana at plus 600. I'm really curious about that event. If you want to get in on that action, visit it at FanDuel.com today to get in on that. The Maui odds are live, so much more. You'll get started again with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Never waste a hunch and go make every moment more at FanDuel.com, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time, folks. College basketball season is here. There is absolutely nothing better than the atmosphere of a college hoops matchup. We saw that this weekend. So many fun, true home games. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible at the Kohl Center, at Mackey, various other places as well. And if you want to get in on that, there is a ticketing app called Game Time that helps you get great tickets at a great price. And great news, folks, when you're getting tickets for this year, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks with curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, as well as concerts, comedy shows, theater, etc. Whether it's Game Time's ticketing coverage, the lowest price guarantee, or the panoramic views from your seat in the app feature, Game Time has you covered. And talking about the Wildcats today, Arizona hosting Duke at the McHale Center on Friday. Right now, Game Time has 2 tickets in section 110 for just $168 a piece. That's a great deal to see 2 top-ranked teams on a true home court. Fantastic stuff there. If you want those tickets, you want any other tickets going on this week, take the guesswork out of buying them with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account now, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Isaac, closing out our Monday show as we so often do with a 6-pack, taking a look at some other results from around the college basketball landscape this weekend. Starting with the big matchup at Madison Square Garden on Sunday between Rick Pitino and his son, Richard Pitino, the 4th time those 2 coaches have matched up against each other. New Mexico went out to the Garden, was unable to defeat the father Rick in this one, 85-71, the final score for the Johnnies. St. John's built a big first half lead and pretty much just withstood it in the second half. There was a handful of times where New Mexico got it within 6, within 4, kind of cut into the lead a little bit, but there was just too much balance and versatility from St. John's in this one. All 5 of their starters were in double figures. RJ Luis, 21 points, 11 boards, and 7 assists. I was incredibly impressed with Zuby Ejiofor in this one. Obviously did not go up against JT Toppin, which would have been a really fun matchup had Toppin still been at New Mexico. But Zuby has looked every bit the part of kind of that Joel Soriano replacement in the front court. 13 points, 10 boards for him. Kadari Richmond had a nice game as well, although his turnover issues remain, 7 of them in this game. I still feel pretty optimistic about New Mexico. I thought they played a competitive game here. This was a road matchup for them, but Obviously, St. John's really, they're both these teams are probably going to be in that bubble conversation. We'll see if St. John's can play their way out of it, and picking up marquee non-conference games like this is a big advantage for them. So this is a much needed win for Rick in this one, but a nice showing, I think, from a New Mexico team that's still going to be a danger in the Mountain West this year.
Andy, we had an undefeated matchup in the Cintas Center on Friday night. The Skip Prosser Classic, actually, as Wake Forest goes up to Xavier. And look, I told Wake Forest, those Demon Deacons, to watch out with their juju, because I had left some bad juju for them up there years ago, and it turned out to be no good for Wake Forest. Xavier wins this game 75-60. The Musketeers out there swashbuckling and doing absolute work. Look, Wake had been playing it a little too close, Andy. We talked about that on Friday. That was like they were winning, but we weren't really convinced that it was looking good so far. And we were a little curious about Xavier too. Well, Xavier shows up in a big way. They're 4-0 on the season now. Kind of, you just talked about St. John's kind of right up there in that Big East conversation where some folks thought they would be. Ryan Conwell in this game has 21 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, really good stuff from him. Zach Fremantle has a nice game, 11 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, and 2 steals from him. So nothing eye-popping or crazy mind-boggling, but really fills it up. X shot 10 of 26, 38.5% from 3, while Wake was 5 of 15. Just a so-so day for Hunter Salas by his standards. Anyway, 16 points, 5 assists, 3 of 10 on 2s, and that's part of an issue there. Wake had 18 turnovers. That's just too many on the road, Andy.
Well, 3 of the last 8 national championships have been won between Virginia and Villanova. We knew that this game was not exactly going to carry the same cachet that typically a matchup between 2 recent national champions did, and we were correct in that assumption. Virginia wins this one 70-60 was the final score here. 31-26 at halftime. We joked whether Villanova was going to get to 20 in the first half. They did, but they didn't get a whole lot more than that, and unfortunately the storyline remains for this Villanova team that Eric Dixon is pretty good and nobody else is doing anything for this team. Only one other player in double figures. Dixon had 20, Jordan Longino had 10, and that was it. Wooga Poplar has not been the player that Villanova needs him to be. He had 7 points in this one, 2 of 12 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3 for him. This Villanova offense is completely sputtering right now. Yes, Virginia obviously has a stout defense, and that's part of the equation here, but this has not been a strong showing at all for Kyle Neptune and Nova. We didn't expect them to win this one, but they just didn't look like a team that's really going to be all that competitive going forward this year. And I think the watch for how much longer Kyle Neptune keeps his job is going to continue as long as they have results like this.
Yeah, and Wooga looked a little banged up in that game. We got knocked around a couple times. I wonder if that had a factor.
I hope for his sake that's the case. Yeah,
honestly, Andy, that's a great point. Look, good news for Nova. They got to 20 points in the first half. I was very nervous they were not going to, but they did, Andy. That's great. Look, let's go to these, leave the Big East and go to this plethora of overtime that we had this weekend. But it started actually on Friday where Charleston and FAU went into double OT. Charleston, with Chris Mack at the helm, wins 119-116. Charleston now 3-0 on the young season, FAU 2-2. At that point, anyway, I guess I should say, for Charleston, Ante Brzovic, 39 points, 13 boards, 4 assists, 15 of 25 from the field, hit the game winner for the Cougs in double OT. Great stuff there. Is this where Baba Miller finally is starting to get unlocked a little bit? He finishes with 15 and 12 and 6 assists. And I'm just hopeful for that because he just never really was the dude that he needed to be at FSU. So maybe there's something there at FAU. Caleb Glenn gets 27 off the bench for the Owls. But Andy, here's the thing. FAU was in action against Liberty the very next day. This time they were on the winning end of an overtime battle, one of just 7 overtime games on Saturday. FAU beats Liberty 77-74. I'm just going to go through these. Syracuse over Youngstown State, 104-95 in double OT. How do you win by 9 in double OT? Bucknell over Richmond, 80-76 in double OT. Missouri State over Tulsa. What's up, Quanzo Martin? 111-106 in triple overtime. Rice over Northwestern State, 77-75 in single OT. ECU over George Mason, 78-77 in double OT. And Hofstra over UMass. Shouts to Marcus Camby and John Calipari, 75-71 for Hofstra in overtime.
Well,
did I do that fast enough? Was that good?
I thought that was incredibly fast. Yes, well done. You sounded like an auctioneer knocking off those games.
Yes.
Rutgers, Monmouth is the other game here. We're not going to talk a lot about the game. We are going to talk about the two freshmen for this Rutgers team, notably Ace Bailey making his college basketball debut after missing the first few games for the Scarlet Knights. He looked really good. 17 points in this one, 5 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from beyond the arc. He also had 6 boards, 2 steals, and a block, and a run-out dunk. That looked really, really good. He looks like the player that folks want him to be, the player that's going to be in the top 5 of this upcoming NBA draft. So too does Dylan Harper, who's looked good throughout the season for Rutgers and hasn't really had a lot of help up to this point, but having Bailey back, this team is going to be really dependent on those two guys. Harper had 20 points for Rutgers, 6 of 9 shooting, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. He also had 6 assists, 5 boards, and 2 blocks. Yes, Monmouth, not a super powerhouse opponent for Rutgers, and they gave up 81 points, which is probably not great for this team going forward, but it'll be really fun to see what Rutgers looks like with these two guys healthy when they start playing some more marquee opponents. Very excited to see these two guys in action.
Andy, we had a couple mid-major teams knock off high majors earlier in the day on Sunday. The most recent one that ended like literally as we started recording was Clemson at Boise State. Boise State holds serve at home 84-71. Chase Hunter, though, for Clemson was the high scorer in this game with 30 points for Brad Brownell's team. Really good stuff there. But look, don't see this as an upset. This is a home game for Boise State, who's more highly ranked at Ken Palm than is Clemson. 35th for Boise State, 45th for Clemson. So don't call it an upset, but it is a mid-major over a high major. Also, St. Mary's against Nebraska. SMC hits a couple free throws in the last couple seconds to ice it and win 77-74 against the Cornhuskers. SMC was 11 of 27 from 3. That's 47.8%. While Nebraska was under 30%, Andy, that makes a big difference. 23 off the bench for Mikey Lewis. Another opportunity for a mid-major over a high-major game. In fact, this would have been beating a ranked team. That's Colorado State and Ole Miss earlier this weekend, but the Rebels kind of take care of Colorado State really well at 84-69. I think that's a big win for the Rebs there, Andy, this weekend.
Yeah, we got so not a huge slate of games this week, but it feels like every day this week has at least one really important must-watch game. Monday tonight, Gonzaga on the road, taking on San Diego State, 10 p.m. Eastern time. That game will be on the CBS Sports Network. Definitely do not want to miss that one. Right now, we're going to call it a show, but we want to give a quick update as we're talking in real time. Mississippi State up 19-17 over Utah with just under 10 minutes to go in the first half. By the time you're listening, we'll know the upset, or we'll know the result there. We'll get a chance to talk about it later this week. Folks, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Thank you so much to those of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the day. Shout out to a lot of really fun games this weekend. Looking forward to some more fun stuff throughout this upcoming week as well. As always, want to say apologies to the Lawyer family, even though they got themselves a nice win this weekend. Let's go Wildcats, although that was not exactly a great game for Arizona or for Kansas State, frankly.
Or Villanova.
About that one. Until Tuesday, peace out.